Alright, first of all, I want to make it clear for everyone that clicked this video thinking about how I'm going to be just like glazing the game and not actually having any like good talking points. I do highly recommend you listen to my full explanation, so then that way you don't like jump to conclusions or whatever. Because I'm gonna promise to you all, this update, the one where they added the new rarity and it's in every single, gacha, it's actually not as bad as you think. Or at least, if the devs do it in this way, it is nowhere near as bad. So yeah, let's jump into this by starting off with one of the main opinions that I want to give out first of all. So, do I think that they should have added a new rarity right now? I have been saying this in the Discord server of, Anime Ghost for probably weeks now. I don't think the game needed a new rarity just yet. I think, they could have waited at least maybe another 2 main updates, maybe like update 7 or 8. But I am gonna say, I'm pretty sure I did suggest in like 1 or 2 suggestions, right, that they added all of them into every single gacha at the same time. Now let me explain why. The reason behind me suggesting this, by the way, I didn't suggest it directly to them, it was just, me discussing with just some other random players. I suggested this because it would solve a few of the main problems and it could also prevent a lot of future problems. First of all, what's the main problem that it would solve? Well, it would give a lot of players that love to grind the game, like for example, a lot, like, hours and hours on end. It would give them, the ability of like having stuff to do, right? They wouldn't run out of things to grind and whatever. But that leads to, a main issue, SMG. I'm a random Timmy, I'm a random player from like this country and whatever. I can't AFK overnight, or I can't for hours, like grind for hours straight. My parents either limit me or I'm too busy with school. But again, when I was suggesting this or, talking about them doing this, I did specify that I don't think that they should even remotely make it a requirement to even have 50% of these for another like update. For example, in around 5 days from now, the next main update is going to be releasing, update 6 or whatever. If I were the developers right now, I wouldn't even remotely make it a requirement to even need like, for example, up to, I don't know, maybe you'd only need like maybe 3 of them or 4, maybe 5 maximum. And again, even if it's a large number, like 5 or 6, right? It shouldn't be a requirement to have them. 5 or 6 should be the amount of ghostlies that you need to make the update just brain dead easy. At least I'm going to be saying that with the current state of drops and the current state of, spinning. The devs definitely need to, give us the time to, grind the tokens, roll for them, because, rolling will probably take just as long, if not longer than, actually grinding the drops. And I'm going to be explaining, some ways how they can improve it, just make it better for free-to-play players in general later on in the video. Now again, a lot of you guys would be saying SMG, but I don't have good drops, and I just completed, getting secrets from the first 3 worlds, now I have to worry about the ghostlies. But do keep this in mind, by the way, you don't need any ghostlies at all to get to the max world right now, which is going to be world number 9. Look at it this way, right? As long as the developers don't change like the HP values or whatever of the current progression style of the game, you don't need any ghostlies to get to this point in the game. That means that if you were somehow lucky enough, for example, let's say your max world is world 6 and you managed to get 1 or 2 ghostlies related to energy, then that's completely extra. You didn't even need them. That's like a free 2x upon 2x boost. And again, even if you're in the final world, right, and you're like, uh-oh, SMG, how am I gonna get, all of these gachas or whatever, or even, a few of them by the next update? And again, as long as the devs, I hope they're watching this by the way, as long as they don't make it a requirement, it's completely fine. We have a lot and a lot to grind, but I don't want them to put like a time limit, like a deadline by why you need to get them. They should give everyone a reasonable amount of time to grind at our own paces, so that we can max out at, the times that we please. Of course, they shouldn't make it too long. For example, they shouldn't give us like 2 months to get, for example, 5 of the ghostlies. That would be like, way too excessive. But the idea as a whole, do I think that the new rarity should have been added now? No, absolutely not. It should have waited at least 2 more updates. But them adding it to every single gacha is completely fine. And again, I will make it clear, it is completely fine as long as they don't make it a requirement for another like world or 2 to even have like 50% of them. Now, there is one main issue right now that I do want to point out, okay? And that is going to be regarding the free-to-play players. So not people like me who have bought, almost all the game passes with gems and haven't spent a single Robux. But I'm talking to you guys that only have the free-to-play specified game passes. So remote access and fast open. What I am going to go ahead and recommend to the devs, right, is that they need to buff gacha speed for free-to-play players and then a tiny little bit for just all players in general. The reason I say that is because right now, drops aren't exactly too difficult to get. Like, once you get a good drops multiplier, and especially when you grind during admin abuses, it is actually not that difficult to get tokens. And I'm not talking about AFK grinding, I'm talking about active grinding in game modes like, for example, the Titan Raid. The main issue right now, which is for basically every single player, even if you're a maxed out pay to win, is that, you know, rolling all of those tokens is gonna take way too long. So here are some simple things that the devs can add in order to buff this. Some of them can just be, you know, simple upgrades, like for example, alien upgrades or exchange upgrades. Just as long, I'm gonna make this clear, devs, just as long as you don't make it a dungeon upgrade or a desert mode, you know, defense mode upgrade. Please, for the love of God, do not add it to these specific game modes. Please, devs, these are like, even now as like, you know, a final world player, these are some of the most obnoxious ones to grind. Titan Raid, okay, I can understand, you know, because if you grind the Titan Raid, you can get like to wave 100 or something probably for like the average player who is endgame. But the dungeon, we are so limited, right? Because we have to like travel to each and every single room. There's like a much less maximum amount of potential rewards. So, you know, speed and amount of possible tokens that you can get is much lower compared to, for example, the raid shop. So I'd highly recommend, if the devs want to truly add it to a game mode shop or a game mode upgrade, just make it like the raids. Just the raid shop, raid upgrades, but not defense mode or dungeon. Or, you know, do it in a way that people would prefer it. Like, for example, exchange upgrades or alien upgrades, or what other ways can you upgrade, I guess. That's the main issue I want to point out. And again, I will maybe message the devs privately, or maybe I'll make like a suggestion where you guys can vote for it. That maybe either A, they can add a new game pass, but it is going to be, again, the free-to-play tag, or at least I'm going to argue for the devs to do that. And also, you know, maybe they'll just make, you know, more game passes free-to-play in general, like maybe some of the lucky game passes, just so then you can, like, boost your luck up a little bit, so then, you know, maybe you don't need to hit pity for the majority of them. And maybe just some new upgrade types or just gachas or whatever in general that would help out with the grind, especially for the free-to-play players. Again, I'm not saying this from a pay-to-win perspective, I'm saying it from a free-to-play, because again, keep in mind, I haven't spent any Robux, so that means I'm not buying tokens or like a cheating progression in the sense of it. The only difference is that I am grinding the gems, but I'm not limiting myself to like what the game says is free-to-play. If I wanted VIP, I got VIP. In my eyes, you can agree or disagree, I'm free-to-play. So yeah, devs, if you could do one of the main things that I've been arguing about, which is making every single game pass free to play, as long as you buy them with gems, I'd greatly appreciate it. And also, here are some other ideas that I would really love to see in the game. Either a potion or an item that allows you to either force yourself to do some kind of a server-wide event, for example 2x drops, or even better, 100% mode delay. I made a video recently about how you could get like millions and millions of tokens from the Titan Raid during an admin abuse. So if they could make it where you could at least maybe do it once or twice outside of admin abuse, that would be really cool. But yeah, apart from that though, if you guys have some like other concerns about the update or whatever, please let me know down in the comments. Again, I might DM like all of the developers privately, and the more concerns that you bring up that are genuine concerns, I will, you know, forward it to them, you know, either by like taking screenshots or just copy and pasting the text. I just want to show to you guys, this update is not as bad as you think. You don't need to say the anime ghost is dead. And again, just another thing that I might as well go ahead and point out to you all. Gacha luck did get a major boost in the recent update. In case you guys forgotten, in the Easter event, there is a way to get actually passives on your pets that actually give you gacha luck. Let me see if I can go ahead and showcase which one it is. So it is going to be this one over here. Now I know it isn't any game-breaking boost, but it's still though, even for like an early game player, this will be huge to have, and even for an end game player, if you've maxed out every single other possible way to get gacha luck and whatever, getting this would probably still be a decent boost. How much actually gacha luck do I have right now? Gacha luck, I have 7.26, so it's still going to be like a 10 to 20% boost, even as basic like maxed out stuff. And then if I go into the hyper maxed amount, so that means putting on the right mount for gacha luck, so boom, and also making sure that my whole setup is in gacha luck. How much of a difference is it now? Yeah, it's 9.01x, so again, it's still going to be around that 10% to 20% range. And again, if you guys want it, maybe you can argue for them to buff that passive. Or sorry, yeah, buff the passive on the pet. Maybe go to like 0.2x per pet. Or they can just add, you know, more ways to get equips in general. Maybe they can make the maximum like a 13. Again, I guess ideas, you know, the creativity is kind of limitless. But yeah, apart from that though, hopefully I calmed you guys down regarding the update. Again, if you have some other concerns, maybe I missed a huge point about why this update is, you know, bad, then yeah, feel free to let me know down in the comments or DM me on Discord, whichever you prefer. Hopefully this gives you hope that, you know, the update isn't that bad, you can grind it at your own pace. Because I know a lot of you guys were basically saying how you're gonna quit and whatever, and that kind of makes me sad, you know. I like Anime Ghosts, I don't want to see this game die just yet. Anyways though, I'm gonna get back to grinding. You know, I have a grinding video that I'm probably gonna work on sometime tomorrow. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching, and apart from that though, peace out!